Even though it might be nice to be the only one on the road, most of the time you'll be driving along with many other types of roadway users. You'll likely be sharing the road and communicating on a regular basis with large trucks, bicyclists, motorcycles, and even emergency vehicles from time to time. Fortunately, there are guidelines for how to share the roadways and what adjustments you may need to make along the way to accommodate others on the road. The main way to prevent conflicts and collisions among roadway users is to share the roadway system and to understand that different users are given different priorities. One key to reducing the chance of a collision is to know where collisions are most likely to occur. That way, you can more easily recognize a risky situation and be extra cautious around other road users. There are at least 5 common potential traffic conflict situations. First, oncoming vehicles pose a great deal of risk because they can cross into your path and cause a head-on collision, one of the worst types of crashes to experience. The second situation involves merging vehicles, cars either moving into or out of the flow of traffic, or entering from the side. It could be another vehicle that is merging into your lane, or you may be the one moving into or out of the flow of traffic. Third, vehicles just ahead of you represent a risk. Cars to the front may slow down abruptly or quickly swerve to avoid an object in front of them. On the other hand, the car next to you could swerve into your lane completely without warning. Fourth, vehicles behind you may be following you too closely. If you have to stop suddenly or they don't notice that you're slowing down, they could run into the back of your vehicle. Finally, many crashes occur at intersections. This is not really surprising because at intersections there can be multiple vehicles that want to go in different directions. The important thing in all of these situations is to recognize the potential for conflict and always watch for vehicles that might be moving into the space cushion around your vehicle. Although there are many collisions each year, few occur that do not involve human error. The good news is, you know what types of errors to expect. Not only will you make fewer mistakes yourself, but you'll be better able to avoid the hazards caused by other drivers' errors. The key is to anticipate the hazards that other drivers may create before they create them. You can identify most of the hazards that other drivers create by looking in the right place at the right time. Now that you know what kinds of hazards you face, let's see how well you recognize them. What's the hazard here? It's a good bet that he suddenly realized he took the wrong exit. And the hazard here? The brake lights are a tip-off. The only reason to apply the brakes is to start the car or shift out of park. This driver is about to pull out into traffic. What should you do here? People working on cars on the side of the road tend to be preoccupied. If the driver decides to try starting it, he may walk into the street. The best thing to do is to give him the whole lane. Spotting potential hazards early lets you prepare to act, and if needed, to respond quickly, smoothly, and safely. The highway would be a much safer place if we could all communicate effectively with one another. Then there'd be fewer surprises and less people running into one another. Sometimes other drivers communicate with their turn signals. Other times they use their headlights. And sometimes they don't communicate at all. The first thing you need to communicate to other roadway users is that you're here. That means being as visible to others as possible. Our headlights can play an important role here. At night, headlights light up the road. During the day, they light up the cars. Vehicles with their headlights on are much more visible than cars without their headlights on. But even if your headlights are on, other drivers may still have trouble seeing you. Here's another time when it really pays to be seen. This is not a great place to be, but sometimes there's no choice. If you can't get your car all the way off the roadway, you'll need more than flashers. You need something to warn drivers that there's trouble ahead. At night, flares or reflective triangles will usually do the trick, but they should be placed to give plenty of warning. Day or night, you should put the warning devices at 100, 200, and 300 feet behind the car. That gives approaching drivers plenty of time to react. If help is needed, a cell phone can put you in direct contact with an emergency roadside service provider. Otherwise, putting the hood up and attaching a white cloth to the antenna, door handle, or window is a signal that help is needed. At times, you'll find the horn useful in communicating to other road users. A couple of light beeps sends a simple "I am here" message. There are a number of situations when communicating your presence this way can prevent trouble, like when you come up behind somebody who is on foot or on a bike, or somebody who is not paying attention or who may have trouble seeing you. But there are other times when even a gentle toot on the horn isn't a good idea. For example, when traffic is obviously blocked ahead. The horn is a means of communication to be used only when there is something important to communicate. When you overuse the horn, it could be perceived as an act of aggression. Even if you communicate your presence clearly and consistently, that's still only half of the communicating that you need to do. You also need to communicate your intentions, such as when you plan to make a turn ahead, and other drivers should do the same, but they don't always do that. Signaling is one of the most common forms of communication on the road. Almost everyone knows about turn signal indicators, but not all drivers use them properly. In fact, the law requires you to signal anytime you change your position. This brings us to the first principle of signaling: signal every time you intend to change position. This means anytime you plan to change lanes, turn at an intersection, enter a highway, or leave a highway. Signal every time, whether you see another car near you or not. The second principle of signaling is give your signal as early as you can without causing confusion. Some drivers don't signal until they actually start to turn, change lanes, or pull onto the highway. This kind of driving behavior can cause collisions. The purpose of a signal is to give other drivers advance notice of what you plan to do, so they have enough time to react. Be sure to signal every time and signal early. The better other drivers understand what you plan to do, the lower the chance that they'll interfere with your maneuvers. Each year, about 4,000 pedestrians lose their lives after being struck by a motor vehicle. Because people are smaller than vehicles, they're harder to see, plus they have no vehicle structure around them to protect their bodies. So here are a few helpful points to avoid colliding with a pedestrian. First, never assume anything about a pedestrian. The only thing you can assume is that they'll act unpredictably and can walk into your path of travel at any point. Second, pedestrians always have the right-of-way. Even if they walk into your path from an area other than a crosswalk, you must yield to them. Third, be alert to areas where there are likely to be more pedestrians. These include school zones, playgrounds, bus stops, and intersections with crosswalks. For some drivers, sharing the road with large trucks is intimidating. But with a little knowledge and preparation, it's possible to share the road with trucks safely. First, be aware of your location around large trucks. Large trucks have blind spots or no zones at the front, back, and sides. Remember, if you can't see the truck driver in the truck's mirror, the truck driver can't see you. Second, compared with cars, trucks and buses take much longer to stop. Forcing a larger vehicle to stop quickly can cause a serious, even fatal collision. After you pass a truck, you should be able to see the entire cab of the truck in your rearview mirror before pulling back in front. Also, avoid situations in which you need to brake right in front of a truck. They cannot stop as quickly as your vehicle can. Finally, be careful of trucks making wide right turns. If you try to get in between the truck and the curb, you may get caught in a squeeze and can suffer a serious collision. So pay attention to truck signals and give them lots of room to maneuver. And remember, if you can't see the truck driver in the truck's mirror, the truck driver can't see you. You may also find yourself driving around motorcycles and scooters. For several reasons, there is additional risk anytime these vehicles are nearby. It's no surprise that motorcycle riders are more likely to be injured if a collision occurs. This is largely because they have fewer protective systems compared with drivers of passenger vehicles. The risk of a collision is particularly high at intersections, where crashes commonly involve the driver of a passenger vehicle turning left in front of a motorcycle. Fortunately, drivers of passenger vehicles can reduce the risk of colliding with motorcycles and scooters by following a few simple techniques. First, know where these vehicles are in the traffic environment and where they might be, even if you cannot directly see them. Expect to see them anywhere, but because they're harder to see, you need to actively look for motorcycles. Second, carefully check for motorcycles when changing lanes. Make absolutely sure the space is clear before you start your maneuver. Third, Increase your following distance behind motorcycles to 5 to 6 seconds in good weather, and maintain even more space when the weather or road conditions are poor. Lastly, always assume that a motorcycle or scooter is nearby and give them plenty of room. Like motorcycle and scooter riders, bicycle riders are also at risk when sharing the road with passenger vehicles. Compared with drivers of passenger vehicles, they too have little in the way of physical protection. Fortunately, there are also ways in which passenger vehicle drivers can reduce the risks involved in driving with bicycles on the road. First, you must recognize when cyclists are nearby. That means both expecting them and using your eyes effectively to detect them. Since bicycles are smaller than motorcycles, they can be harder to see, even when they're directly ahead of you. Second, once you detect a nearby cyclist, it can help to recognize what type of rider is on the bicycle. If the rider is a child, he or she may make unpredictable moves and be unaware of the risks involved in riding in traffic. Third, be sure to give cyclists plenty of space. And if you have to pass a cyclist, pass them as you would any other roadway user, giving them plenty of room. Lastly, be patient around cyclists. They may not move as fast as you want to go, and you may be stuck behind them for a while. Relax and wait for a safe opportunity to pass by. Eventually, you'll approach an intersection where you'll either drive straight through or make a turn. The challenge here is that many other drivers will also want to drive straight through or turn at the same time you'll be there. It's also more likely that there will be other roadway users, such as pedestrians, at the intersection at the same time. That creates a high potential for conflict and collisions. Simply put, because there are more roadway users at intersections, there are more collisions at intersections than in any other place along the roadway. Although the risk associated with intersections can't be completely eliminated, it can be reduced by applying a few techniques. As you approach an intersection, you must scan the entire intersection and identify any areas of blocked vision and any signs, signals, or road markings. As you get closer, you'll usually need to adjust your speed, most often by slowing down a bit. A useful technique in this situation is to cover the brake. By lifting your foot off the accelerator and positioning it just above the brake pedal, your response time will be that much quicker if you have to use the brakes to slow down suddenly. You don't actually touch the pedal when covering the brake. Your foot is just a bit above it in case you need it. If you have to slow down, and you probably will, be sure to check if there's a vehicle following behind you. If so, it can't hurt to tap the brakes a couple of times to help alert the driver behind you that you're decelerating. Intersections are also a frequent reminder that not all drivers obey traffic controls. You need to be aware that this could happen at any intersection. Even if you've been granted the right-of-way, before you enter an intersection, you must check for any other traffic entering the intersection. Look left, then right, then back to the left. As your eyes move from left to right and back, remember to scan straight ahead of you for any potential risks on the other side of the intersection. If you don't look back again to the left before entering an intersection, you may miss something important. There are some large vehicles out on the roadways today, and the largest one that you'll interact with is probably a train. At some point, almost every driver will need to drive across railroad tracks, and those intersections can be very risky. Each year, approximately 2,000 collisions kill over 250 people at railroad crossings. These crashes often occur despite the presence of warning signs, crossing gates, and signals. Unfortunately, the passenger vehicle driver is usually at fault in these collisions, especially at intersections that are not equipped with signals. Obviously, there's an enormous difference in weight between trains and passenger vehicles. In fact, a train weighs about 4,000 times as much as a passenger vehicle. In proportion, it's like an automobile versus a soda can. As a result, a passenger car driver is almost 20 times more likely to be killed in a crash involving a train than in a collision with another passenger vehicle. Two simple rules will help keep you safe at any railroad crossing you will ever approach. The first rule is, always expect a train. People get so used to not seeing trains that they may stop looking. There's only one way to make sure that the way is clear, and that's to look up and down the tracks carefully. If you don't have a clear view of the tracks, be sure to slow down enough to be able to stop if a train does appear. And if there are multiple tracks crossing the roadway, Don't assume that you're waiting for just one train to pass by. Watch out for a second train. The second rule is never try to beat a train. Any train you see is closer and moving faster than you think. Because of the train's size and its distance away from the crossing, it's easy to misjudge how fast a train is approaching. If you see a train approaching, wait for it to go by before you proceed across the tracks. Even if you don't see a train, never drive around lowered gates. It's illegal and deadly. Be aware that trains cannot stop quickly. Even if the train engineer sees you, a freight train that's moving at 55 miles per hour can take a mile or more to stop once the emergency brakes are applied. Do not get trapped on the tracks. Proceed only if you're sure you can completely clear the crossing without stopping. Let's talk about merging, one of the more difficult lane changes you'll encounter. When you merge onto a highway, you need to turn your head to check the position of nearby traffic that's already traveling on the highway. What makes it particularly difficult is that you're moving, and you need to look ahead at the same time. Quick glances back will allow you to see traffic on the road and find a gap to merge into. Now, because of the way you've adjusted the mirrors, you can generally see the cars already on the highway in the left mirror. Most merging crashes involve vehicles running into the back of a car ahead that has stopped. By keeping your looks behind very quick, you're able to see what's happening ahead. Most freeways have long merge lanes that let you keep going while you look for a gap. But some merge lanes are short. In this case, you may need to stop and wait for a chance. Here, if you were to be looking behind, you wouldn't see that the car ahead has stopped. This is one of the major contributors to merge crashes. You can't assume the way is clear unless you see that it's clear. Entering freeway interchanges is challenging enough, but eventually you need to exit the highway, and that requires care too. To exit a freeway safely, follow these steps. First, identify the appropriate exit at least 2 exits in advance. Next, check the traffic following behind you. Then, select the proper lane and signal your intentions 3 to 4 seconds in advance. Enter the speed change lane as soon as you can. Then, enter the exit ramp at the posted speed or as appropriate. Be sure to check the traffic ahead and behind as you proceed onto the ramp. Freeways can help you get where you want to go pretty quickly, but you've got to take special care when entering or exiting freeways. Fortunately, by recognizing how the many roadway users differ from one another, knowing where and when other drivers are likely to make errors behind the wheel or the handlebars, and communicating effectively, you can reduce the risk of something going wrong.